Welcome back to Seville, and behind me is Seville Cathedral, and this is the largest Gothic church in the world. In fact, it's the third largest church in the world. And if you want to get technical, it's also the world's largest cathedral. In this mammoth church is buried Christopher Columbus, the famous explorer. And next up, we're going to commemorate, we're going to revisit, we're going to pay tribute to the lives of missionaries of the past.
Thank you, Gary. I am here in the lower level of the General Conference Archives and Statistics Department with Dr. David Trim, who is the Director of Archives, Statistics, and Research. And I can't even explain as well as he can what he does, but he is an integral part of the mission of the Seventh-day Adventist Church with the, especially the historical side of what we've done in the past, as well as the statistical side of things that helps us to understand where we've been, where we are working, where we're not working, where we need to be going for the future. So it's critical information that he's working with down here. And he is going to tell us a story today, or several stories actually, from India in the 1890s. And this is going to be some pretty interesting things. So Dr. David Trim, tell us about some of these people that you were just telling me about in India.
Jeff, and welcome to the GC Archives. It's a pleasure to have you here with us and to tell the stories of missionaries. This is something we're very passionate about here. How does our church come to arrive in India? It doesn't arrive there actually until 1893. And then it has slow origins, but today the church in India is growing. We thank God for that, but it comes from very humble origins. What's more, it comes from the efforts of lay people. Pastors take a role, but the first work is done by lay people, and that's something we want to promote. Reaching the world is not something we can say, oh, we leave that to professionals. God needs every church member to be totally involved in the mission of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And the person who almost embodies that best of all is a woman called Anna Gordon, who's almost entirely forgotten today. She was the first Adventist to work in India. She was an English woman. She grew up in Liverpool, and apparently she would look at, Liverpool's a huge commercial port. She would see ships with the crates being loaded onto them labeled for Bombay and Calcutta. And it just captured her imagination. In the early 1890s, she met American Seventh-day Adventist missionaries to Britain, and she learned about the Sabbath. She accepted it. But she wanted to do more than that. She wanted to witness to the Sabbath, and she didn't want even to do it in Britain, where, of course, people were at that stage mostly Christian, though they weren't Seventh-day Adventists. She said, no, I want to tell people who've never heard about Jesus. I want to tell them about him. And for whatever reason, she decided she would go to India. Now, what makes a single woman in middle life decide, I'm going to go to this utterly strange country and culture? But she did. And so in early 1893, the leader of the British mission, as it was called, Doris Robinson, writes to church leaders and says, we've got this extraordinary woman, Anna Gordon, who is going to India. She's paying her own way, and she's going to work with people there. And she did. She sailed to Bombay. She set up, her home there, and she started to try to meet people to study the Bible with them. Now, sadly, India was home to tropical diseases for which there was no cure then known. And in 1894, she passed away. By that time, the first official missionaries had arrived. But we should remember that commitment to say, I want to tell people about Jesus. I'm not going to wait for the church to give me a job. I will go and I'll share our literature. I'll study the Bible with people. This is something every church member can do and every church member should do.
You mean it's more than just coming to church once a week? No. You mean there's something else to do beyond that?
Exactly.
For everybody?
For everybody. Not everyone's going to feel called to go to an utterly alien culture or country.
Right.
But everyone can pray. Everyone who is doing okay could give money towards it. People can encourage it. There is a part and a role for everyone to play.
Everybody's got a neighbor, you mean?
And everyone has a neighbor in that. You don't have to go to Asia. You can do it wherever you live.
Exactly.
But that same spirit is also present in some of the other early missionaries. So you're going to see on screen now a photograph of what was called the Bow Bazaar Mission. It's the Adventist Mission in Calcutta, a huge city, and it was on Bow Bazaar Street, why it's called that. Now you see here Doris Robinson, the man I mentioned a little earlier, because he got called from Britain to be leader of the first official mission in India. You can see him there at the back, but in the middle you can see two ladies, Georgia Burris and Martha Taylor, both again single ladies, both of them lay people, both of them determined to go. They were on a church salary this time, but they're not pastors. They are lay people who are committed to mission. And Doris Robinson, also you can see his wife there, and you can see a little girl sitting on her lap. They adopted an Indian daughter. They didn't have any children themselves. They adopted an Indian daughter. Now, today, maybe that wouldn't seem so strange. In the 1890s, whites, Europeans, Americans did not adopt local children. But that's how much, that's the love they had for the people of India. It wasn't just a theoretical love. I want to tell Jesus they loved Indian people. Georgia Burris later got married a man called Burgess, and so some people will know of her as Georgia Burgess. But she and Martha Taylor both, they witnessed very actively. They went around Calcutta, they sold books, they offered lessons in vegetarian cooking, which a number of people actually took advantage of, and they were integral parts of that Indian mission. So the foundations in India, there are pastors certainly, people like Doris Robinson and William Spicer, who you can also see in this picture, but it's played, the key role in the early days is played by active, committed, lay church members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
And how much of their life did they spend doing this?
Anna Gordon, of course, ultimately gives her life.
Right.
Georgia Burris and Martha May Taylor both lived in India for well over a decade.
Okay, wow.
And Doris Robinson gave his life as well. He contracted smallpox in an epidemic, and he died there laying down his life as well. Being a missionary, there was a cost to being a missionary. We often forget that in an era where we can fly home for medical treatment. Right. That's not an option. There was a cost to being a missionary, but early Adventists paid it willingly.
Total commitment. Incredible.
Absolutely.
Wow. And total member involvement.
Exactly.
That's a word or a phrase that you're going to hear being bantered around more and more. TMI, it's called.
But that's what it means.
That's right. Being involved wherever you're at, whatever you're doing. So thank you, Dr. Trim, for letting me be here with you today.
It's a pleasure.
And for giving us a little bit of a tour of what you do. It's a pleasure to hear some of these stories from the history. I am Jeff Scoggins. Thank you for being with us today. I'm reporting for Mission 360. Thank you for what you are interested to do in helping Jesus to come back sooner.